What is your biggest secret? Story 1. When I was a kid, I shot a metal dog bowl with a BB gun, and the pellet ricocheted into my dad's sliding glass door. It left a bullet hole and spiderwebbed the glass. I panicked. Trying to cover it up, I grabbed a piece of gravel, rubbed it into the bullet hole, and placed it near the door. Then I started up the lawnmower, mowed part of the backyard, and intentionally cut the grass too short. I told my dad that I must have hit a rock while mowing. Amazingly, my BB gun didn't get taken away, which was a relief. Fast forward 10 years, and now I'm an actual landscaper. My dad hires me to mow his lawn, but my stepmom insists I check for rocks before I start. There never are any. It's funny how this little lie from my childhood just won't go away. Story 2. When I was in 3rd grade, I got one of those Harry Potter kits where you could build your own wand. Excited, I decided to make it Slytherin material, thinking it would be an evil wand. As soon as I finished, my brother walked into my room without knocking, and it annoyed me so much that I pretended to curse him with the wand. No big deal, right? Later that evening, my brother was playing outside. He climbed to the top of a slide, and out of nowhere, he fell. He broke his arm trying to catch himself and had to be rushed to the emergency room. I was completely convinced that the spell I'd cast actually worked and that I had created a truly evil magic wand. That night, when everyone else was asleep, I grabbed a shovel from the garage, dug a hole in our backyard, and buried the wand. To this day, I've never looked for it, nor have I told anyone about what happened. Story 3. I can't really explain it well, but essentially I cannot see at night. Ever since I was little, I remember sitting on the front porch in the dark and not being able to see anything clearly. I could vaguely tell where trees were, but beyond that, everything just turned to black for me. I've seen 2 optometrists, and neither of them found anything wrong with my eyes. Because of this, I can't drive at night. All I can see are the headlights of cars, and they blur together so badly that I can't tell where the vehicles are. I haven't told anyone, except medical professionals, the full extent of my night blindness. If anyone is concerned after reading this, don't worry, I never drive at night. It's for my own safety and the safety of others. Story 4. In 4th grade, I had a girlfriend. She lived up the street, so I'd sometimes go to her house to watch movies. She's the one who introduced me to The Legend of Zorro and drink soda, things I wasn't usually allowed to do. On my birthday, she even got me Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards. I always told her I was going to get her this Bratz Pets dollhouse she wanted. I claimed I already had it for her, but just couldn't give it to her because of my parents. The truth? There was no dollhouse. There never was. Eventually, kids started teasing me for going out with her. I have no idea why. Kids are cruel, myself included. So I stopped talking to her. I stopped going to her house, stopped hanging around her, and eventually cut her off completely. Fast forward to middle school. I don't know what happened, but her mother passed away and she became very ill. By 8th grade, she could barely speak and had to be escorted around in a wheelchair. At an assembly one day, her caregiver wheeled her right next to my seat by chance. Her friend, who vaguely remembered me, asked if I remembered 4th grade. Of course I did, but I lied. I convinced them both that they had the wrong person and that I had no idea who she was. As I kept denying it, the girl in the wheelchair became visibly upset. She grew so distraught that her caregiver had to wheel her out of the gym. Fast forward to senior year in high school. A friend from 4th grade messaged me to say that she had passed away due to her illness. When the news spread, someone else in my class brought up 4th grade, but again, they weren't sure if it was me. And even then, I denied any connection to her. This is my deepest secret, and it haunts me every day. Looking back, I realize how disgusting my behavior was. She was nothing but kind to me, and there isn't a day that goes by that I don't hate myself for how I treated her. Since then, I've vowed to never treat anyone like that ever again, no matter who they are. I don't have the right to say this, but may she rest in peace. I hope, wherever she is, she can forgive me for my transgressions. Story 5. My youngest sister always wanted a dog, so my parents got her a little fluffy Pomeranian, and we named her Kit Kat. My big dogs didn't like her, and over time, I grew to dislike her as well. She wasn't house-trained, barked constantly, got into the trash, and chewed up clothes and blankets. I love dogs more than anything, so I offered to train her. My parents refused, worried that I'd bond with Kit Kat, and my sister would get upset. Kit Kat had a habit of running away. If someone left the front gate open, she'd escape and run through the neighborhood for hours until someone managed to catch her. She never even learned her name. Despite all of this, my little sister adored her. They were best friends. One night I left the gate open. I told myself I'd close it later. A few hours passed, and there was a knock at our door. Our neighbors stood there, holding Kit Kat's lifeless body. They'd found her in the road. I took her from them, thanked them, and nearly threw up. I knew it was my fault. I couldn't be bothered to close the gate because I was careless. I wrapped her in a blanket and told my sister what happened. She held Kit Kat for an hour, crying uncontrollably. I will never, ever forgive myself. Story 6. 3 years ago, I had a sudden life-threatening illness, and my 2 supervisors at the time tried to look at my medical records while I was hospitalized. Their excuse was that they wanted to see how I was doing, but I work in healthcare, and they absolutely knew better. They never called my husband. They never visited. They just tried to access my records through the computer network. A year earlier, they'd visited a colleague in the hospital after a car wreck, but for me, they couldn't even bother to make a phone call. When I returned to work, far too soon because I needed the money and health insurance, they called me into the office almost daily over petty interpersonal complaints. Eventually, they fired me. HR didn't even show up because they didn't know what to do. On top of that, they ignored a physician who was harassing me. He refused to communicate with me directly about patients, dumped piles of documents on my chair instead of putting them where they belonged, and ignored reminders to sign important forms. He even made passive-aggressive comments about my personal life, including my lack of religion and choice of pets. I gave those people 7 years of hard work, only to end up with an illness probably caused by stress and be treated like garbage. What really gets to me is that I have nightmares about these 3 people, my supervisors, and that doctor. I don't have nightmares about any of the injuries or illnesses I saw at work. Just them. I want to write to them and tell them how much they destroyed my love for the work I did, but I can't. I need references. Story 7. I'm 16, and I really want to die. I have moments where I enjoy things, and I have an amazing girlfriend, but I feel hopeless inside my own head. I haven't even told my therapist that I've thought of a dozen different ways I could end my life if it ever came to that. I get intrusive thoughts, horrible ones, that make me feel like I'm broken beyond repair. I overthink everything. I'm constantly afraid my girlfriend is going to leave me, and I have so many insecurities that I don't think I'll ever overcome. On top of all that, I have tinnitus. The nonstop high-pitched ringing is like a drill in my head, and no one can do anything about it. What makes me feel even worse is that I know I've been given so much. I have 2 incredibly understanding parents who have done everything for me. I've taken advantage of their kindness before, and it eats me up inside. I don't even know how I have a girlfriend. She's 2 years older than me, beautiful, and gets so much attention from other people. Yet she stays with me. She checks to make sure I've eaten, helps me study for my SATs, and makes sure I'm taking care of myself. I try to keep up this funny, carefree facade, but I can't anymore. People are starting to notice. They ask why I'm grumpy, but I don't know how to explain it. I feel like I've got nowhere to turn. Story 8. I'm not close to many people. I socialize with coworkers, but there's no one I trust. As an only child, I don't have siblings, and my cousins openly told me they didn't want me in their lives. All my close friends eventually moved out of state for work, leaving me feeling more alone than ever. For the past few years, I've built a strong friendship with someone I met online. He's a few years younger than me, and I initially helped him with legal studies and schoolwork. Over time, we started playing games together and grew very close. To me, he's like the brother I never had. Here's the big secret. I want to move to Australia, where he lives, just to be near someone who truly values me. It feels crazy. I'm on the east coast of the US, and moving halfway across the world isn't a small decision. But I have a good job and could likely transfer there. I just want to leave an impact on someone's life and feel like I matter to someone. This friendship gives me hope, and I feel like it might be my chance to find happiness and a sense of belonging. Story 9. It's not exactly a secret, but I need advice. I can't seem to find good friends. I have a few, but not long ago, one of my closest friends stopped initiating conversations or asking to hang out. He didn't stop talking to me completely, but it feels like he lost interest. When I tell people about this, they suggest finding friends with similar interests. The problem? I don't really have any interests. I've tried to find hobbies, but nothing grabs my attention. I used to be in college, but got kicked out after attempting to take my own life. That decision by the school made everything worse for me. I also sleep my life away, sometimes up to 16 hours a day. I went to the doctor about it, but they couldn't find anything wrong. People often tell me it sounds like depression, and they're probably right. But I already see a therapist. I've been on the highest doses of antidepressants, and I've tried exercise. I've even experimented with illegal drugs. The only one that helped is one I can't touch again because it would destroy me. I feel like I'm stuck. I don't know how to move forward, and I'm tired of feeling this way. Story 10. This happened about a year ago. I'm 24 now. I'd been dating a girl for 5 years, and I thought she was the one. She seemed perfect, maybe too perfect. Everyone knows we're not together anymore, but here's the secret. We broke up because she cheated on me. She'd been seeing someone else for an entire year before confessing and ending things with me. Here's the kicker. I've never had S. Even though she wanted to, I asked her to wait. I wanted our first time to be special and meaningful. But while I was waiting, she was all the way with someone else. When she finally told me, I still felt like I loved her. I wanted to move past it and give our relationship another chance. But instead, I told my family and friends that it was my fault the relationship ended. I didn't want them to judge her or think poorly of her, so I let them believe I was the one who screwed up. Now, a year later, I still get grief from my family and friends for letting a perfect girl go. We had a shared friend group, and they all think she's an angel, while I'm seen as the asshole who ruined everything. The timing couldn't have been worse. 2 days after she confessed, my beloved dog passed away. I fell into a spiral of alcoholism and smoking, trying to cope with the pain. I'm finally out of that dark place. I've stopped drinking and smoking, and I'm trying to rebuild myself. I guess there's nowhere to go but up. Story 11. I've been failing at university for years, lying to my parents about it, and losing all the so-called friends I had along the way. None of them were real friends anyway. They've all graduated and moved on with their lives. Last year, I spent every night fantasizing about suicide. At some point, those thoughts faded, but now I don't feel anything at all. I just exist. I sit in my apartment all day, doing nothing, waiting for the time to pass so I can sleep. I leave my apartment once or twice a week to buy groceries. Other than exchanging a few words with the cashier or replying to texts from my parents once or twice a month, I haven't had any human contact in 2 years. There was one person who was kind to me when I lived in a dorm a couple of years ago, but I was too shy to act on it. I tried reaching out to her this year, but she wants nothing to do with me. I'm too scared to end my life and too scared to try actually living it. Eventually, my parents will figure out that I've been failing, and when they do, I guess that's when I'll kill myself. Story 12. I think I'm casual, but I'm not sure how much of that is because of what happened when I was 14. Back then, I joined a Skype group for a game server I played on and ended up role-playing explicit scenarios with men in their 20s. Before that, I didn't have much interest in boys. Afterward, I adopted this shallow, performative approach to anything sexual. I thought I had to view myself as an object, something men would like. I even got into a 7-month-long relationship just because I didn't understand that the butterflies I felt were actually anxiety. I didn't even kiss the guy. I didn't want to. That mindset stayed with me until now. I'm 19, and I've spent the last year trying to undo all the unhealthy thoughts I had about myself and relationships. For years, I saw my body as a commodity, something to be maintained for someone else's benefit. I used to develop crushes on much older men, but it wasn't because I wanted them. It was because their attention made me feel valuable. If an older man liked me, I could convince myself I was grown up and important. It didn't matter if I truly wanted that kind of attention. It just made me feel like I mattered to someone. Now I'm finally starting to learn who I am outside of that toxic mindset. I began university terrified of men my own age, especially since 6 of the 10 people in my flat were taller, stronger guys. That fear made the first few weeks almost unbearable. Being a transgender guy might also play a part in why I didn't feel like I grew up until now, but those performative, objectifying behaviors made it even harder to discover my real self. I don't think I could ever tell my parents about what happened. My mom would blame herself, and my dad would just get angry. I don't want to hurt them like that. I don't wish for a relationship or actively pursue anyone. If I develop a crush, it's fleeting and never very strong. Maybe hormones will change that, but I don't think they'll fundamentally change who I am. Still, when I hear my friends talk about their crushes and how excited it makes them, I wonder if I'm missing out. I wonder what it feels like to truly be in love with someone. I don't think I'll ever know for sure. Story 13. There are 2 secrets that I've never shared. The first is that I utterly despise myself. I genuinely wish the people who worked to keep me alive as a premature baby hadn't bothered. Most people probably see me as a pessimistic downer, but the truth is, I wish I didn't exist. My birth mother was told she couldn't and shouldn't have children, and I wish that had been true. The second secret is probably worse. or at least evidence of how broken I feel. Even though I'm a guy, I've always wished I could be pregnant and have a child. This thought has been with me since I was a kid, but it resurfaced strongly after a rough month with my depression. Now it won't go away. Sometimes I think I'd be happier if I were a woman, but deep down I know I'd probably still feel broken. Maybe a therapist would say this is tied to abandonment issues from my birth mother not wanting me. Maybe someone reading this will feel better about their own life knowing they're not as messed up as I am. I bet some women who've had kids would laugh at me for feeling this way, but it's my truth. Story 14. I'm really upset with how my life is going. I'm a homemaker who doesn't know how to drive. My whole purpose in life feels like it's just taking care of my husband, our home, and our animals. I live in my little bubble and never come out of it, but I want to do something with my life. I've always loved chickens. I know it sounds silly, but I want to hatch and raise chickens to sell. I have an entire plan laid out, down to the coop design and the breeds I'd use. But I don't have the money to get started, and my husband spends all his extra cash on car parts instead of supporting my dream. To make it happen, I've been doing small online jobs, things like translating clips, completing surveys, or typing text. I've earned $17.21 so far, about a quarter of what I need for an incubator. Once I get it, I'll buy eggs from popular breeds, hatch them, and sell the chicks. From there, I'll grow my business. I haven't told anyone because I know they wouldn't believe in me. When I've mentioned it before, people laughed or told me I couldn't do it, but I'll show them. Story 15. I'm the one in the group who's always confident, cracking jokes, and being there for everyone no matter what. But sometimes I desperately wish I had someone like that for me. I struggle with severe separation anxiety, which stems from things that happened during my childhood. It's a constant battle between anxiety and depression. Some days I can't stop thinking about how much I want to die, just so I wouldn't burden anyone anymore by clinging to them. Other days, my mind is consumed with thoughts of how alone I am and how the people I care about most will eventually leave me forever. I don't mean to cling to people, it's not intentional, but I don't trust that people will stay in my life of their own free will. So my mind convinces me that if I hold on tight, they won't be able to leave. I've told my close friends about my separation anxiety, but I've never shared how deeply it affects me. I don't want them to worry about me or feel burdened. I'm genuinely trying my best to manage it, even though it feels impossible at times. I'll keep working on it, even if it takes my entire life. I'm just so tired of people walking out of my life because of this. Story 16. I'm bipolar and stopped taking my medication about a month ago. My friends know I've stopped and they think I'm doing fine. I'm not. The hallucinations are nearly constant now. My delusions are slowly creeping back. My thoughts are becoming more and more disorganized, and the intrusive thoughts are relentless. My impulsive behavior is escalating too, and I'm genuinely concerned about how I'll handle living with my mom over the summer. She's crazy in her own way, and that house is where I experience the worst of my mental illness. I'm scared it will push me over the edge. At the same time, I'm trying to learn how to live with these hallucinations. They've always been there even when I was on medication, so I'm trying to adapt. They vary depending on the light. Sometimes they're benevolent, other times malevolent. My therapist supports me in trying to live without medication, especially since I've been taking it for 6 years now. I have hope that I can work through this, but I'm terrified that I'll spiral back to how I was as a teenager, hallucinating, cutting myself, and completely incapacitated. I don't want to go back to that place, but I'm scared I might not be able to stop it. Story 17. My best friend of 15 years and I went out drinking one night at a bar when we were in our early 20s. At the time, she lived with her parents and her twin brother. Her brother had always made me uncomfortable, grabbing at me or staring at my chest, but I tried to ignore it for her sake. That night after we got home, I went upstairs to her room to change into pajamas while she stayed downstairs. Her room had a connecting door to her brother's room. While I was changing, he came in and asked where she was. I told him she was downstairs and kept getting dressed. He left, so I finished changing and laid down on the floor to sleep. A little while later, he came back. He fondled my breasts and pulled down my pants. I think the only reason he didn't go further was because I was on my period and wearing a tampon. I was terrified, so I pretended to be asleep and rolled away from him. Eventually, he gave up and left. To this day, I've never told my best friend what happened. She's been through similar experiences, and knowing her brother is capable of something like that would absolutely crush her. I told her I didn't remember much about that night, and I don't think I'll ever tell her the truth. Not even my husband, who I was married to at the time, and still am, knows. I've kept this secret from everyone. Adding to the pain, I also had a couple of cousins who did similar things to me when I was younger. I've never told anyone about those experiences either. Story 18. I have a crush on the property manager of my apartment complex. He's around my age, and I think he might have feelings for me too. I'm incredibly shy and have terrible social skills, but I've been trying my best to start conversations with him instead of just waving when he drives by. It's tough though. When you have a crush on someone, you obviously want to talk to them. Not just wave, but that's so much easier said than done. Because of my social awkwardness, I feel like I mess up every single interaction. It's incredibly frustrating. Despite that, he seems so sweet. He always asks how I'm doing or what I'm reading, and he smiles the cutest smile when he sees me. Last week, he surprised me with a coconut-flavored frozen fruit bar, which was delicious, by the way. I don't think he would have done that for just anybody, and the idea that I was on his mind makes me feel all giddy. Somehow, I must be doing something right. Next time we talk, I'm totally going to flirt with him. Hopefully, I won't chicken out. Sorry for rambling. I just really like this guy. If I told you every little detail about what's happened between us, it would probably fill a whole novel. Story 19. This might be hard for some to read. When I was 15, I fell head over heels for a guy who was 3 years older than me. At least that's what he told me. I was naive and completely infatuated with him. He was my first love, my first everything. He treated me like a princess at first, candlelight dinners, meeting each other's families, the whole thing. Looking back, I realized how blind I was. A year and a half later, I found out I was pregnant and everything fell apart. Instead of being happy or supportive like I'd hoped, he became violent. He beat me so badly that I ended up miscarrying. I had to be transferred to a hospital in a different city because he kept showing up, threatening me and the hospital staff. He was eventually removed by security and faced charges. That's when I learned he wasn't 3 years older. He was almost 6 years older and had a history of domestic violence. I had no idea. At 16, I lost my baby and wasn't even given the option to see or bury them. The hospital said the pregnancy wasn't viable, and they simply gave me a moment to grieve before taking the remains away. No one knows this happened except for my family and my current partner. I've carried this secret with me ever since. Story 20. I've been married for 6 years and have been with my wife for 15. Over the years, we've discovered more about who she is. She's casual, aromantic, and leans toward being a gender. She wears a binder whenever she's out, wishes she could get a breast reduction or removal, and keeps her hair cut short, often with a buzz at the back. She looks quite masculine, especially when she wears her binder. I'm pretty much the opposite of casual and aromantic, and this has caused friction between us. Friction we both feel guilty about. Neither of us can help how we feel. I never want to be controlling, so when she says she wants to cut her hair short, I tell her that I don't love how it looks so manly, but ultimately it's her hair and it's her choice. It feels superficial and silly, but sometimes it feels more like I'm dating a guy than a woman. While I find some men attractive, I just don't swing that way. The deeper problem is that I truly love her, and I know she loves me. I remind myself that getting upset about these things is counterproductive. I don't want to lose her. I don't think I could cope without her, but this tension gnaws at me. Some days are worse than others, and I think my depression plays a role. I've struggled with it for 26 years and have been on antidepressants for 12. So yeah, that's one of my things. It's hard, but I keep trying to make it work because I love her. Story 21. I love my boyfriend so much, but I plan to break up with him. Not because of anything he's done, but because I hate myself. I'm so insecure about my body that being undressed in front of him or even just wearing underwear makes my heart race and brings me to the verge of tears. I feel so ashamed of how I look. Because of this, we don't have ES very often. I'm even insecure about showing emotions like happiness because I'm terrified that if I look ugly, he'll realize how hideous I really am. I'm 55 kilograms at 175 centimeters, but I see myself as a disgusting land whale. I thought about confessing these feelings to him, but I don't think he'd understand. And even if he did, it would hurt him, and I don't want that. He deserves to be happy and to be in a relationship where he's fulfilled in every way, not dealing with my insecurities and self-loathing. I've already started cutting off my best friends in preparation for summer because I know they'd invite me to hang out or go swimming. I can't handle the idea of showing any skin. For years, I've preferred sweating in coats and jeans during the summer over exposing my body. My friends and boyfriend would always try to get me to take them off, and that's where the problems begin. I've been isolating myself every summer for the past 6 years. I started self-harming when I was 18, and now I'm 21. But there's some good news. I'm on a diet to lose the extra 15 kilograms. I tell myself that once I lose the weight, I'll finally be happy, and then I can enjoy life. Story 22. I'm terrified of life and growing up. The thought of doing things on my own and being independent is overwhelming. Even though my parents were amazing, I was babied a lot as the youngest child, and now I feel like I don't have the skills I need to face adulthood. I'm not rude or bratty, but I'm definitely not independent. At 21, I have no idea how I'm going to pay for college, make a living, or just be an adult in general. I barely know anything about taxes, filing for them, paying rent, or managing credit. I don't even fully know how to register for my own classes without help. I want to learn, and I want to be independent, but I'm so scared to even try. On the surface, my friends think I have everything together, just like my older brother and sister, who have great jobs and successful lives. But my life feels like it's falling apart before it even starts. My fear keeps me from moving forward, and I don't know how to get past it. Story 23. I don't know if anyone will read this, but if you do, thank you. My secret is that I'm really bad at dealing with life and facing challenges. My family and friends think I'm fine and appear to have things somewhat together, but that couldn't be further from the truth. I don't know why, but I can't seem to stay consistent or self-disciplined. I procrastinate constantly and escape through games or YouTube instead of tackling my responsibilities. I'm not sure if I'm depressed, have ADD, ADHD, or if something else is wrong with me, but I almost want to believe I do so that I can blame my struggles on it. I've even started seeing a psychologist, hoping they'll diagnose me with ADD, ADHD, so I can get referred to a psychiatrist and maybe be prescribed Adderall. I've used it illicitly before, and it made a huge difference, but it's unlikely because I have a contraindicated condition and my symptoms aren't obvious. I always do the bare minimum to get by, which leaves me constantly stressed and unable to truly relax. Even when deadlines are far away, I know I should be working instead of wasting time. Being in a high-achieving university program only makes it worse. I feel like I don't belong and can't keep up with everyone else's hard work. I used to believe I had the potential to be someone amazing, but that belief fades more and more every day. On top of all that, I recently broke up with my girlfriend of 2.5 years, and I feel like a terrible person. She was kind, dedicated, and everything I could ask for, but I wasn't as good to her as she was to me. Deep down, I wanted a relationship that required less effort, with someone I'm more physically attracted to. That thought makes me feel awful, because I know she was the best partner I'll probably ever find. She's been trying to get back together, but I don't want to, even though it breaks my heart. She deserves better than me, but she still thinks we have a chance. My self-esteem is at an all-time low. People tell me I'm funny and social, but I feel like I suck at connecting with others. It's hard for me to imagine going out to a bar, meeting someone new, and finding a girlfriend who shares my interests. Right now, I just kind of hate life. Story 24. When I was 13, a decade ago, I made a mistake that haunts me to this day. My best friend, one of his neighbors, and I were drinking, which was already a terrible idea at that age. We thought we could handle it, but we were wrong. The neighbor decided to ride his bike down a hill and hit a ramp that launched him into a river. On his second trip down, my friend handed me his air rifle, a real one for hunting small game, not an airsoft gun, and bet me I couldn't hit the neighbor's helmet. It was strapped to his head as he went down the hill. I took the bet. Holding the rifle with one arm, I squinted and pulled the trigger. The neighbor flipped his bike right before the ramp and didn't get up. We ran down to check on him, and he was holding his head. When he pulled his hand out from under the helmet, it was covered in blood. Not only had I missed the helmet, but I'd missed it in such a way that the pellet went through the slots in the helmet and directly into his head. He was rushed to the hospital. Meanwhile, we were made to stay in town under supervision until we sobered up. When he came out of surgery, he couldn't remember who shot him. My best friend had blacked out and had no recollection of the event. I was the only one who remembered, but I panicked. I framed him. I told the police that he was the one who fired the shot. That he looked at me, said, "Watch this," and pulled the trigger. He ended up serving 18 months in juvie because of my lie. I haven't been able to face him since. Even now he tries to rekindle our friendship, but all I feel is overwhelming guilt. He has no idea I framed him. His life spiraled after that. He lost touch with his family, couldn't maintain relationships, and was in and out of the system. He's essentially alone in the world, and it all started with the lie my 13-year-old self told. Story 25. I hate my family. I hate saying that because I desperately want to be a loving, wholesome daughter who can look past their faults. But I can't. I'm an acon, adult child of narcissists. My older sister is a bully and the golden child, and my older brother is schizophrenic and has tried to kill me in countless ways. Both of my siblings have illnesses, and I'm in good health, so I became the one child my parents chose to abuse. They did horrible things to me, things I can't forget. I watched as my siblings received love and respect that I could only dream of. Eventually, the hope that they'd love me died, and I ran away. Every few months, I try to reconnect, hoping for a reason to hold on to them. But every time I see them, I'm reminded why I left. They haven't changed. Years have gone by, and I constantly wonder if something is wrong with me too. We're cut from the same cloth, after all. I try to be a good person, putting others before myself, but I'm terrified that deep down, I'm just as broken and monstrous as they are. Story 26. When I was 13, I started struggling with body image issues, and it's been a long journey to where I am now. I don't talk about it much, but I feel like I've never pursued dating seriously because I lack any sense of self-worth. It started with being bullied for my weight as a kid, which left me with the belief that I wasn't attractive and never would be. Later, during a 3-year battle with depression, I gave up on myself completely. I had nothing that made me feel wanted. My college grades were disappointing, especially compared to my success in high school. I didn't have a job, I didn't have a girlfriend, and I barely had any friends. I felt worthless. Food and entertainment became my coping mechanisms, and over 2 years, I gained nearly 80 pounds. Then I took a trip to LA with my best friend. We stayed with one of his friends, and on Saturday night, he wanted us to go out. I wasn't prepared. I didn't pack any pants, just shorts. And apparently you need pants to get into most bars or clubs in downtown LA. After being turned away from several places, I felt like I was ruining the night for my friends. I told them to stay and have fun while I took a walk. My best friend, who's incredibly emotionally intelligent, made his friend call it a night early so they could find me. I was walking around downtown LA alone for maybe 20-30 minutes. That trip was sobering. Earlier that day, we biked in Santa Monica, and I couldn't keep up with my friends. I enjoyed it, but it took every ounce of energy I had. They kept getting ahead and waiting for me to catch up. Looking back, I feel ambivalent about that trip. On the one hand, there were fun moments, going to Phil's Coffee for the first time, late night meals at Crave, the bike ride. But I also felt like a burden, and yet it was the catalyst for change. When I got back, I immediately upgraded my wardrobe, bought slacks and chinos that fit, and started putting effort into how I presented myself. It took longer to develop healthier habits, but I eventually got a job in my field, earning a full-time salary. For the first time, I felt appreciated and wanted at work. I've also started making progress with my weight. At my peak, I was 315 pounds, and now I'm down to 293. My goal is to be under 275 by the time school starts again, and I'm aiming for 250 by the end of the year. But dating still feels like the most intimidating thing in my life. I'm clueless about how to start. I know my best shot is meeting people in person because I have decent people skills and a dry sense of humor. But the idea of going to a bar terrifies me, and between work, school, and side hustles, I feel like I don't have the time. I've decided not to push myself until after this school year ends. Once it's over, though, I know I'll have no more excuses. By then, I hope to have made even more progress with my weight and confidence. Story 27. I love my father. Growing up, he was the one who was always there for me. My mom, on the other hand, was overprotective with my siblings, but didn't seem to care much about me beyond making sure I was surviving. Everyone in my house hates my dad because of his blunt, take-it-or-leave-it personality. Then he cheated on my mom, and they found out. The fighting that followed and his eventual pulling away hurt me deeply. It left our relationship unstable, and when my mom forced me out, my dad moved to Colorado a year later to be with a woman who accepted him. He wants me to come stay with him for the summer, but I'm too scared to go. I'm afraid of what my mom and siblings would think, and I worry that the entire trip would feel awkward. He left when I was 11, and since then I've felt completely out of place in my family. My siblings are just like my mom, but I'm completely like my dad. Without him around, I don't fit in. All of our extended family is either dead or excommunicated because they disapproved of my parents' interracial marriage, my mom being white and my dad being black. Now that my siblings have grown into pests for my mom to deal with, she's looking to me to grow up and succeed, but I don't feel capable. I don't have any interests or passions since my dad left a hole in my heart. Everything feels jaded. and my only comfort comes from the few friends I've made. High school is suffocating. I'm expected to get perfect grades, stay at the top of my class, take countless AP courses, avoid easy classes I might actually enjoy, and plan my entire future. On top of that, I'm supposed to aim for a big-name college that I can't afford while juggling extracurricular activities. I just want a role model in my life, someone to guide me. I have to figure everything out on my own as it comes at me, and I'm not ready for senior year. I know it's going to be a mess, and I'm scared. I really needed to let that out. Story 28. Last summer, I went on a 2-day tour to Chernobyl and Pripyat. While I was there, I met a girl from Michigan, and I fell for her almost instantly. She was beautiful, kind, smart, funny, and had this cute, carefree energy. On the first day, she lost her passport while we were in the zone, and I helped her find it. When we did, the guide, who was super friendly, told us there was only one room left for the night and asked if we'd mind sharing. Before I could answer, she said she didn't mind. We ended up spending the night together, talking about everything. The next day, we continued talking as we strolled through Pripyat, which was an incredible experience in itself. When we got back to Kiev, we hugged and said goodbye, both of us sad because we knew we'd probably never see each other again. Back at my hotel, I couldn't stop thinking about her. Then I remembered she mentioned taking a train that night, and the station was nearby. I ran over, hoping to see her one last time. I searched for nearly an hour in the massive Kiev train station, and finally, I found her. She was so happy to see me, and we spent the next few hours waiting for her train together. When it was time for her to board, I helped her find her platform and carry her bags. We stood at the terminal, hugged, and then she kissed me. That moment is something I'll never forget. I know I'll probably never meet anyone like her again, but I also know we couldn't be together. She was a free spirit, and that's what I loved about her. I'd never want to take that freedom away from her. We still exchange messages occasionally, but I know I'll likely never see her again. Flying to Michigan isn't something I can afford anytime soon. But I'm not sad, I'm grateful. Meeting her was a gift, and whenever I feel down or bad about myself, I think of her, and it lifts my spirits. Story 29. I don't know if anyone will see this, but I need to get it out. I want to tell my psychologist and my family that I blame my parents for my mental health issues. But I'm terrified my family will hate me. I don't want to hurt them. I just want them to try to be better people so they won't hurt anyone else. I know that's probably wishful thinking, considering how stubborn and selfish they are. I'm very insecure, but sometimes I fake being insecure about things I'm actually kind of confident about because I like the attention. It makes me feel good to hear people tell me how humble I am. Even when I'm not in the middle of a depressive episode, I joke about suicide, hoping my parents will notice and start to worry. But I'm too scared to tell them I've been seeing a psychologist. When I was 12 and mentioned having suicidal thoughts, they dismissed it, saying, "You're just being silly," and told me there was nothing wrong with me. And then there's the time they told me to stop acting depressed because my younger siblings might copy me. Screw you for saying that. Maybe if you weren't so manipulative and controlling, we wouldn't be like this. I'm scared I'll spend the rest of my life alone. No guy has ever really shown interest in me. I try to make peace with the idea of being alone forever, but I've always wanted a husband and kids. It hurts to think that might never happen. I hate how my parents raised me. They were negligent, and instead of building me up, they tore me down. They always compared me to other kids and made me feel like I wasn't good enough. I wasn't a social butterfly, and they made me feel like there was something wrong with that. I hate myself because of it. I feel like I have no value and that no one would care if I disappeared. I'm sorry I couldn't be the star child they wanted. Sometimes I hold on to a little hope that someone might want to spend their life with me. But even if I do find someone, I'm scared it'll end in a messy divorce and broken kids. If I do have kids, my parents will never see them unsupervised. I don't want them poisoning my children the way they poisoned me. I want my kids to feel loved and proud of who they are. I want them to know that when life gets hard, they can find comfort at home with their family. I never had that. I want my kids to know they're safe with me, that they can talk to me about anything, and that I'll always have their backs. I hate seeing people get manipulated, especially socially awkward people. I used to be, and still am, socially awkward. I've improved, but it's still a work in progress. All socially awkward people want is to feel accepted, and it infuriates me when people take advantage of that. If you manipulate someone who just wants to be loved, you're a terrible person. My cousin is on her way to becoming an actress. Another cousin and an old high school friend want to be writers. I've always wanted to act and write, but I feel like chasing those dreams would mean taking something away from them. And to my self-proclaimed best friend, you're a piece of crap. Stop tearing me down just because you don't like something about yourself. You were one of the main sources of toxicity in my life, and I had to cut you out to get better. You need help. Get off your high horse and try being nicer. Story 30. My secret is how little I feel. Most of the time, I fake my reactions, pretending to be excited about a great gift, acting touched by a compliment, or showing sympathy when someone is in pain or upset about bad news. Deep down, I feel disconnected, like every person on this planet is just an NPC, non-playable character, and I have no real connection to anyone. The only time I feel genuine empathy is for animals. I care so much about them that I don't eat any animal products and can't stand watching animal cruelty. But when it comes to people, I don't feel anything, not even when they're suffering. It doesn't bother me to see people hurt or even mutilated. Life feels bleak. Everything around me seems dull, like it's covered in a gray fog or mold. Food is just something I have to eat so I don't pass out. I don't enjoy it. I feel guilty when people do kind things for me because I can't appreciate them the way I should. I've felt like an alien among humans for as long as I can remember. People often describe me as kind and empathetic, but it's all an act. I don't care about others at all. I'm just really good at pretending. Story 31. My dad is a former pastor and a proud, outspoken homophobe. I'm bi. I've known for a very long time. No matter how much I tried to deny or suppress it, the only person who knows is my boyfriend. I haven't come out to my family, and I don't know if I ever will. My dad hated me for the first 21 years of my life. After a lot of things happened, we finally repaired our relationship and now it's decent. I'm terrified to lose him again after just getting him back. My mom, on the other hand, is a textbook narcissist. She's also incredibly competitive with me. If I came out to her, she'd either shame me relentlessly or somehow try to outdo me by coming out as bi herself, but claiming she's better at it. She'd also out me to as many people as possible and then get mad at me for being upset about it. I can hear her now. You're my daughter, so it's my place to tell anyone I want. My sister is the only family member I trust. She's not homophobic, and I love her dearly. But she teases me constantly, and I don't think I could handle it if she made fun of me for this. For now, my boyfriend is the only one who knows. I think a couple of my friends might suspect, but I'm not ready to come out to them yet either. Story 32. Sometimes I wish my mom was dead, not because I don't love her, I do, but because it hurts so much to watch her slowly kill herself. She has bipolar disorder and anxiety, and ever since I was 14, I've had to watch her self-destruct. If she wasn't addicted to pills, she was an alcoholic. And when it wasn't either of those, she'd be so angry and withdrawn that I couldn't talk to her. She doesn't eat right, chain smokes all day, and has stopped taking care of herself. Just this past Memorial Day, I visited her and noticed her hair was tangled. I offered to help, only to find that it wasn't just tangled. It was matted to her scalp like a giant Brillo pad. I spent 2 hours cutting and styling it so she could feel better about herself again. What does she do today? She has a Britney Spears 2007 style breakdown and shaves the rest of it off. She refuses to go to a hospital. She refuses to take the medication she's prescribed. She just sits on her tablet all day and never leaves the house. I'm so tired of having a sick mom. I want to scream at her. I want to ask her why she doesn't just end it already so I can finally breathe. I'm so beaten down by all of this. Story 33. I'm on the verge of relapse, and I don't know what to do. Back in the winter of 2017, I started having major issues with my body. I was already underweight, but I began dropping more and more. At my worst, I was eating around 600 calories a day, if that. I started doing better during the summer, thanks to my best friend being an incredible support system. But I'm a trans guy, and my dysphoria has been getting worse and worse. Honestly, dysphoria was a big trigger for my eating disorder in the first place. My high school has been supportive of me being trans, which helps a little, but it's not enough. The bad mentalities that come with an eating disorder have been creeping back in. I don't eat much to begin with, but now I've started skipping meals again. I hate that I feel guilty when I want to eat. On top of that, I'm dealing with other things, trying to stop self-harming, attempting to quit drinking, living in a bad home environment, and struggling with PTSD. It all feels like too much, and I'm scared I'm slipping back into old habits. Story 34. Starting hormonal medication as a transgender woman. 3 years ago changed my life in so many positive ways, but it also heightened my anxiety and depression to unbearable levels at times. Some days I feel panicked and think about stopping, but the truth is, transitioning has brought me so much good. Before transitioning, I lived a life of quiet despair. My days were spent avoiding mirrors, hiding my porn habits from partners, and binging and purging whenever I felt like I was gaining weight. Weekends were lost in a haze of drinking, and I had no goals or plans for the future. Starting my transition gave me a reason to live better. It helped me feel like I deserved more out of life. But the anxiety and depression sometimes make me doubt everything, even my identity as a trans woman. I have days where I feel like giving up, abandoning my transition, scrapping my plans to go back to school, and sinking back into that nothing life of quiet misery. I'm terrified to talk about these feelings with people because being trans is still new and misunderstood for so many. I'm scared they'll use my doubts to try and convince me to stop transitioning, which I don't want. Despite the struggles, transitioning has brought me hope. I have dreams and goals now. I hardly drink anymore. I don't rely on porn like I used to, and there are even moments when I think I look pretty attractive. Transitioning saved me, even on the days when it feels unbearably hard. Story 35. My ex-husband broke me for any kind of relationship. When we met, he drank heavily, but I didn't realize he was an alcoholic. S with him felt like a chore, especially after one of our first conversations, where he called me a deviant for being into BDSM before I ever met him. We never had an emotional connection, but my parents saw him as my financial savior, so they pushed me toward marriage. Money's never been a big deal to me. It pays the bills, and that's all I need from it. But we got married anyway, and the wedding was a disaster. It wasn't what I wanted. It was for my parents. Our relationship was cold. We never kissed deeply, never cuddled, never spooned in bed or on the couch. My mental and physical health started to deteriorate. My anxiety skyrocketed, and my body image issues worsened. After his last deployment, things got even worse. He was having affairs, got into trouble at work, and moved me to Arizona, far from my family and friends. I felt completely isolated. 5 years ago on his birthday, I was hit by a drunk driver and severely injured. I had planned to ask for a separation and return home, but the accident changed everything. It took me 5 years to recover enough to leave him. Now I'm out of that relationship, but I feel broken. I'm so used to being alone and unwanted that even holding a conversation with men my age feels impossible. It's like their go-to topic is always S, and it turns me off completely. I feel invisible. I'm not the most attractive woman in the world, and I'm at my heaviest weight, which makes me miserable. I'm not sure how to move forward or let someone into my life again. Story 36. When I was 16, I had an experience so awkward it still haunts me. It was around Christmas, and our families got together for the holidays. I was playing hide and seek with my youngest cousin, who was 8 at the time. It was my turn to hide, so I went into the bathroom and hid behind the shower curtain. She was searching everywhere and even came into the bathroom a couple of times to check behind the door, but she didn't think to check the shower. I stayed there, holding back laughter, thinking I'd pulled off the perfect hiding spot. Then things took a turn. She came back into the bathroom again, and I thought, okay, this is it. She'll find me this time. But no. Instead, she quickly checked behind the door again, closed it, locked it, sat on the toilet, and started taking a massive dump. The sounds, the smells, it was like a nightmare come to life. I shrank further into the corner of the shower, completely silent, overwhelmed with fear, regret, and confusion. It felt like an eternity, but after about 3-4 minutes, she finished and left the bathroom. I stayed in the shower for another 20 minutes, trying to process what had just happened. I felt so awkward and gross, like I'd somehow done something wrong just by being there. It took me forever to tell anyone, and when I finally did, it was my brother and sister. We all agreed this was something we'd never speak of again. Story 37. I have this sinking feeling that I'll never get over a girl I fell in love with years ago, or that she'll be the only one I ever truly love. My parents are very strict and don't allow me to date until I'm 18. So when we were in 8th grade, this girl and I had a thing. We really liked each other, but we were young and awkward and didn't know how to maintain it. Eventually, she stopped liking me, but I felt like I had fallen deeply in love with her. Now, we're both rising seniors in high school, and she's one of my best friends. While I love having her in my life, it also hurts. A few weeks ago, I started talking to another girl. Friends set us up because we thought each other was attractive. and we went on a sort of date. The date went well, but after I dropped her off, I felt empty. I wanted to like her, but I just couldn't. Maybe it's because we've only recently started talking, but it doesn't feel the same. With the girl I've liked for so long, we were friends first. I got to know her and appreciate her for who she is before I develop feelings. I can't shake the thought that I'll never feel the same way about anyone else, and that I'm just going to be stuck on her forever. Story 38. I'm extremely suicide. I think about killing myself every single day, with at least 2 intense episodes a week. I've been hospitalized for it before, but because my suicidality doesn't present as an emotional crisis, they eventually released me with a diagnosis of anxiety and a prescription for gabapentin, which does nothing for me. Being homeless makes me too high risk for scheduled medications, as my psychiatrist put it. My episodes stem from my inability to hold a job due to dissociative psychosis related to anxiety, but being unemployed and homeless prevents doctors from properly treating it. I'm casual, so I'm not looking for a partner. My goals in life require education I can't afford, and I feel like a psychic vampire, draining the energy of anyone who gets too close to me because of how messed up my situation is. I can self-medicate enough to hold down a job, but that requires money I don't have. It's also illegal, and the first surprise drug test would ruin everything. Even completing job applications is impossible because I don't have an address. To survive, I play music for money, but that draws police attention, which is risky because my license isn't technically valid. I don't have an address for it. By 6 a.m., the friend whose couch I've been crashing on wants me gone so their landlord doesn't ask questions. After that, I have nowhere to go and no way to do anything. I've thought about hopping a train. I mostly think about jumping under one, but I can't bring myself to do that to the driver. There's a bridge I keep thinking about. Or I could go to the ER for the 3rd time, though that feels like a dead end too. I know this will probably get buried, and I don't even know why I typed it out, but I needed to say it somewhere. Story 39. I'm pretty sure I'd be much happier as a woman. My life feels completely passionless, and I've started struggling to tell the difference between my attraction to women and my envy of them. My only outlets right now are internet stories and porn, which I hate to admit. I spend time on niche sites about men being turned into women. Now that I'm in my mid-20s and have more freedom and privacy, my outlets have become more extreme. I probably spent hundreds of dollars on clothes, shoes, and makeup just so I can take a single photo or find one camera angle that makes me look pretty or sigh. Anything to feel a little closer to the dream of being a woman. Even S is becoming difficult because I'm so fixated on niche, unrealistic fantasies. I've realized that my lack of motivation throughout my adult life has been because of this. It's all starting to come to a head, and I think about it almost every hour of every day. I can't even date properly. I always thought I'd meet the perfect woman, but now I don't think that's possible. A heterosexual woman wants a man, and I feel like some flawed version of that. Every relationship I've tried has failed because something feels deeply wrong when I play the role of the man. It's getting to the point where the idea of meeting male CDTG fetishists is starting to appeal to me, just so someone will treat me like a woman and want me. I'm pretty sure I'll eventually go through with it. I feel like I don't even know who I am anymore. After years of masking my feelings and trying to be something I'm not, I wonder, who would I have been if I was born a woman? Or even a man without these desires? All I know is that I'm going to be lonely and always feel incomplete. Story 40. When my wife found out she was pregnant, we both panicked. It was completely unplanned. We'd only been married for less than a year and were in the process of buying our first house. But I took it far worse. I had a mental breakdown and thought I might have to go back to inpatient care for my anxiety. Eventually, I snapped out of it, and now we're excited for the baby. But I'm still freaking out. It's not for the usual reasons. I'm not scared because I'm only 22 and don't know how to be a parent. It's not about the financial stress or the worry about balancing everything with school. What scares me is the idea that my child could inherit my struggles, my anxiety, my type 2 bipolar disorder, or my past battles with depression. I barely survived all of that, and the thought of my child going through it crushes me. I know that I'm equipped to help if they do, and I understand these challenges better than most, but it still weighs on me constantly. I'm also scared of becoming my father. He was a terrible parent, and while I know I'll never be as bad as he was, the fear lingers. My wife has moved past the panic stage and is now excited, shopping for baby things and planning for the future. Meanwhile, I'm still fighting my fears every single moment. Story 41. I still wish I had gone through with it that day when I was 17. It's a long, messy story, but to put it simply, I was a deeply broken kid dealing with PTSD from a lifetime of horrific abuse. When I finally landed in a good foster home, I didn't realize how lucky I was. I put up my usual walls, unable to see the love and stability they were offering me. I was desperate for love and belonging, but I didn't know how to let it in. 16 months later, it hit me that I needed to break down my walls if I wanted to receive what I'd been craving my entire life. But by then, it was too late. I'd already pushed that family so far away that they'd begun discussing with my social worker about having me move out. I tried desperately to change. I tried to trust them, to let them help me. But the battle in my mind was relentless. My PTSD screamed that I wasn't safe, that everything would go wrong, that I had to protect myself at all costs. Then one day, my social worker picked me up from school and told me I'd have to move out. In that moment, I knew I'd ruined the only good thing I'd ever had. Heartbroken doesn't even begin to describe how I felt. I decided to kill myself. I mixed a bottle of poisons, collected pills, and hid them in the bathroom cupboard. I wrote a single goodbye letter to a good friend far away, making it vague enough to pass as a normal message. She saw through it, though, and called the police. On the morning I was supposed to leave my foster home for good, I showered, got dressed, and locked myself in the steamy bathroom. I uncapped the bottle and started taking the pills, washing them down with sips of the poison that burned my throat. I didn't hear the knock at the door. The police, who'd been called for a welfare check, broke down the door and rushed me to the hospital. I saw my foster parents only once after that, and then it was over. Afterward, my life spiraled further. I lived on the streets, battled substance abuse, fought depression and anxiety, and worked endlessly to survive. I moved states, got married, went through relationship breakdowns, and have spent years fighting off the urge to end my life. I've slipped a few times and come terrifyingly close, but I still wish I'd done it then. I think about how much pain I could have spared myself and others. I genuinely believe my husband would be happier with someone else. I've caused heartache to people I care about, and it's hard not to think they'd have been better off without me. If I could go back, I'd do it differently. I wouldn't have done it in my foster parents' house. I would have accepted their decision to let me go, used whatever money I had to fly somewhere random, and found a cliff to jump off or swum into the ocean until I couldn't anymore. I think about the deep ache left by losing that little family and all the pain that's followed since. I wish I'd been wiser, braver, or even just capable of letting people in. I fantasize about going back in time, at least once a day. Story 42. I used to be one of the cool kids in primary school, the one everyone wanted to hang out with, even though I was overweight. Then my parents got divorced when I was 12 and everything changed. It hit me hard. I went from being a happy, outgoing kid to a sad, miserable wreck who spent most of his time crying and playing video games. No one seemed to help in any long-term way, and that sadness stuck with me for years. By the time I got to high school, my classmates saw me as the depressed nerd. I didn't hide my sadness well, and I think it made people avoid me. I've moved several times throughout my life, and every time, I've lost friends. I didn't feel like reaching out or making the effort to stay connected, and even now, I struggle to invite people to spend time together. I've changed a lot since then. On the outside, I look happier, and I'm definitely better than I was. But the truth is, I still can't seem to make real friends. Most of my interactions are limited to casual hellos and quick conversations. Living in one of the roughest districts in Warsaw doesn't help. It's hard to meet people here, especially when most of what I can talk about revolves around games. That's how I've spent most of my life. I don't know what else to say, but thanks for reading.